Luis, this evening, I really need your help on a subject that has cropped up with a certain individual. Actually, there are two letters. The one I'm about to read really is skirting a subject that the names are anonymous, but the material, the substance of it is real. The second letter I would not read, but we have already done a video on it, and that one is to be published sometime in the future. But this one borders on a situation that might be familiar to some people in society. So I will read this letter. Now I want to say before we start that in the Express days, a lot of letters came in to the editor, and as a result, the letters column in the Express or any newspaper for that matter goes a long way in feeling the pulse of the nation. I remember the first letter I wrote in 1967 when I joined the Express at age 18 was all of that garbage you will find on Cora Road. It must have been about 4 inches long, the letter. And the situation persists up to this very day, that you don't find people adhering to sanitation as they should, especially in the beautiful Cora Valley. So that was my first letter to the editor. And then you would have a column coming up where in the evening news, for instance, there was a Dear Marion column, and people would express their romantic problems, they would express their domestic problems. And Marion, whether she was a woman writing it or a man pretending to be a woman, it offered solutions.
I remember that column very
well. You remember
well.
that column?
Yeah.
Dear Marion?
I love to read that.
Yes.
Because it was always about real life, people with their problems,
right,
looking for answers. And some of the things were quite interesting.
Very good, very good. So you remember that, that's great.
Yeah.
And at the Express, when I joined them with the Sun newspaper, there was a girl called Marcia Mentor, I think it is. And she had a nice little column going, but it wasn't as in-depth as the Marion column of the evening news. So everywhere you would find that people would call in and, and they would write to the editor, they would write to the features editor to express
some kind of help.
Yeah, they're looking for some kind of solution to a social problem.
Yeah.
So in this letter here, this first one that we hope to publish, it's really a man's situation. The names are anonymous, of course, but the situation, the fabric of the letter is what we're interested in. So I will read it. Since I consider my circumstances critical, writes this man, I would like to immediately address them. I am a widower of 3 years, having lost my beloved wife in a car crash.
Oh my.
We were married for 38 years and lived a very close and fulfilling life. We had both taken early retirement and had traveled abroad extensively. We were the happy parents of 2 children, a boy and a girl, who now have families of their own, and they both live abroad with their families. Life since the death of my precious wife Clara has been extremely lonely and tearful. I seem incapable of parting with anything that belongs to her. Her clothes still occupy our bedroom cupboards,
Wow.
along with her shoes and several purses.
Well, you ain't gonna have too much purse for me and shoes.
Well, I hope not. Yes, she loved shoes and purses and stylish handbags. Oh, she cut a dashing figure wherever we went.
Kind of like you and I.
Yes, with one purse, one pair of shoes,
One pair of shoes.
one handkerchief in my back pocket.
It's like low budget life.
But Louise, this is a serious matter. Please respect the man's dilemma.
I can't help but heckle you.
Okay, good. But this is a serious affair.
Yes,
please.
of course. Excuse me.
We could not boast of having many friends, and relatives were few, some undesirable to say the least. We were not regular churchgoers, for we had lost respect for the clergy, nationally and internationally, due to scandals which rocked the Vatican at its roots. We nevertheless clung weakly to the priest's gown only because of tradition. After the death of Clara, I sank into an abyss of despair
Oh gosh, poor
that
fella.
severely threatened my health. My children were deeply affected, and following medical care, I was persuaded to visit a psychologist. The diagnosis was simple: grief over loss, fear of an uncertain future alone, an absence of sporting interest, and social entertainment. Recommendation: climb out of the grave of self-pity and find a new life, broadening the base of friendship. My children were all for this. I knew they loved their mother dearly, but my sullen attitude was crushing their ability to help me through this rough and thorny patch. So I decided to give it a try. I pushed myself to go out with friends who seemed prepped by my children as regards my situation. I tolerated their indulgences. There was dinner, drinks, a game or two of darts, a river outing, even a boat trip down the islands. I laughed, I joked, I soaked up the cold water of the Gulf. My children thought I was doing great, but I remained sad despite my efforts to camouflage the hurt. Then Sylvia came along.
Geez, and ages. Now trouble start. Papa, yo.
She worked at the Trini Bank and had often spoke highly of my marriage to Clara. She was never married, and that was a mystery to us. She was intelligent, dressed decently, and was always cheerful and helpful in our monetary affairs. She really liked us as, in her own words, a model couple. She was at Clara's funeral and stood solidly at my side at Clara's cremation. When my daughter Rose suggested that I date someone of my choice, I immediately thought of Sylvia.
What?
But I chickened out of the thought of asking Sylvia for a date. Me, an old man with Sylvia? I voiced this to Rose, who laughed uncontrollably. Why, Dad, she said, older couples in the United States do this every day. Americans are not scared to marry at advanced ages. They're not scared to go to university even beyond the age of 70.
It's true.
Be a man, Dad. Be a man, Dad.
You think your daughter going to encourage you so?
No, but I feel like I run this woman. Yes. Trinidadians and Americans, I told her, we don't have this culture. Well, Dad, she said, time to change this. You.
Setting the pace for your
So,
boy.
Sylvia and I had our first date at a Port of Spain restaurant.
What? You waste time.
A Chinese wok restaurant. It was a good evening of chopsticks and fried rice, chunky veg, lemon chicken, chow halok, steamed wontons, passion fruit, lychee, and creme caramel. The rest of the evening passed without the slightest hint at intimacy. Home alone, the sadness returned. I am no cook, but I braved the kitchen one day. Sylvia was coming over at 6 p.m. She showed up promptly with a bottle of sparkling wine. Sparkling wine. She was sparkling. The meal was a success only because Sylvia spruced it up. So I know she could cook. Right, so I had no problem there. I showed her through the house, the layout of which seemed to charm her. And this house actually was designed by Clara. I had the money, we had pooled our resources, but Clara, he told me, Clara was the one who designed the house. So I showed her through the house, the layout of which seemed to charm her. But I could tell she wasn't keen on Clara's photos on most walls. You see, like how we have our photograph up there behind us, with you there in different places and me there. Maybe she would be objecting to that. She was surprised after 3 years that I still had not dispensed with Clara's clothing and jewelry. At the door, she turned and said, I hope you find a wife who will be willing to live in Clara's shadows. Sylvia walked out of my life because I seemed unprepared to move on without Clara. We're still friends, but nothing more. Other women have stepped into view, but the results have been the same. Actually, I do not really expect you to try and convince me that I am wrong in attitude. But I find it satisfying, this exercise of sharing my particular position with you. You have said in a previous video that you are not marriage counselors, so that I find it easy to communicate with you. Professionals are usually too professional, and they scare me. I simply want to hear your casual and experienced response to my situation. Yours sincerely, Lonely Heart Arima.
Oh my gosh.
Now, Louise, why I asked you to help me this evening is because
Poor fella.
I understand from, this is a man's writing.
Yeah.
I understand his predicament. He loves his wife. It's hard for him to shake off the memory of what they had together, what they built together with grandchildren and whatnot. But I want to hear from a woman's point of view, how would you, you're in face this situation.
If I was in Clara's position?
If you were in Clara's position, what would you, no, not Clara, is it Clara? You want to be in Clara's?
Sylvia's position.
Sylvia's position, yeah. Clara's position, you would have been cremated already, man.
Oh, sorry. You know what? Slow and you throw with names, you know.
That's okay.
If I was in Sylvia's position.
Mm-hmm. What's that there? What's that little old thing there? You know, we have all kind of antique devices.
I think that Sylvia recognized that although Clara was dead 3 years, it must have been like 3 days still for this man.
Okay.
And therefore, he has not moved on. And she was, I would say she was wise in recognizing that he has not moved on. I am not prepared to live in Clara's shadow, and therefore she cut ties one time with him. So I would say, as we have said in previous videos, that if you know upfront what you are going into, and you take the decision, you're going to give it a try, well, you will have to take whatever you get. Because she is privy now to know this man is still grieving for his wife. He has not had the courage yet to make, to start to get rid of her stuff.
To shed things.
To shed stuff.
Mm.
So he is still in the grief process, maybe even denial. Mm. So yes, Sylvia, it may seem, but she didn't give the man a chance.
Mm.
But I would say personalities, she see the picture and she know I don't have the strength to go through this, and therefore she walk away. She wish him good luck because she realized he need luck. But I can also see, what's his name? No name. No name to be called.
No name, no.
Right.
Lonely Heart.
Lonely Heart. Now I could understand how Lonely Heart feel, because he is used to Clara. Mm-hmm. It's how many years they were married? Many years.
Many years. 38 years, I think.
How much? 78?
38. 38
years married.
38 years.
I mean, we are married 50 years.
51, Louise.
51 years. So he would understand, from what he has said in his letter there, he and Clara had a very fulfilled life. They understood each other, more than likely. They enjoyed life. Mm-hmm. Their children had grown up, and he and Clara was really enjoying life together. So it's not like turning on a tap and turning off a tap. So he will find himself, if Sylvia had, not see the big picture up front and had decided to get married, he would have compared her with Clara. Mm-hmm. Because it's been a long time and he has been used to Clara. So I could see the picture I could see both of their stories. Because, poor fella, he's still grieving for his wife. And nobody gonna, when a young woman going to marry, especially Clara is a young woman to them. At least seem to me, and I don't know with no age, but somehow I kind of think of somebody maybe at least 10 years younger, maybe 20.
Mm-hmm.
She worked in the bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has to consider this man age difference also. Maybe if he was 20 years older than her, but she not seen this as a grieving man for his wife who died, and he had never been married, she might be willing to love covers a multitude of sin. I love this man. He's older than me, but he's still in good shape. I going through brave. But this moping little old man on my hand now, and I going to have to live in Clara's shadow more than likely. Yeah, that's scary.
Well, you know, that brings me back, as you're saying these things here. Maybe she should have given him a little break. And maybe, you see, the difficulty is how to break down people gently.
Yes.
That's the trouble, how to break down people gently. Because he was interested that she was a good cook.
Right.
She seemed to be a good cook.
Yeah.
She could handle monetary affairs, right?
Yeah.
He could have given her a chance, and she could have given him a chance, and maybe they could have worked something out.
But she saw the picture.
It's a big
she
risk.
saw the picture, and she planned that, let us nip it in the bud before I will have to hurt you.
Okay.
So it could be she's thinking, if I go along with him, he may not know what I'm thinking. He might think I'm interested, and then I have to say, well, sorry, old chap,
So what would you tell Lonely Heart? What would you say to Lonely Heart if he really wants to have a fulfilling life and to close that gap, that is lost?
What I will tell Lonely Heart is, I don't know whether there is still hope for him and Sylvia.
Mm-hmm.
Right, whether Sylvia has. But he can take this as a cue that he may date somebody else.
Well, he said that there were others, and he seemed to want
give
to
her
stick
his
it
choice.
out. He seemed to want to stick it out that nothing will change. So he's making it hard for himself.
Or
he said that at the end. Others came along, but the results were the same.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something. Women really and truly, they like to be number one, and somehow marrying a man who still love his wife and still grieving, you become second place. And she may even think that his children might be away, but there'll be times he will want to go and visit his children. She don't know how the children will feel about her. Hopefully living away, foreigners have a better understanding that their parents could get married, and it's not a problem with them, because it's like, okay, you have somebody to take care of you,
Westerners are not like that.
But we West Indians are not like that. And children, you could never replace my mother, and may start to even feel, oh boy, daddy didn't have to do that with mommy, and look at, she's privileged.
Because all of the children want him to have a new life.
Yeah.
The reality is they could be objecting in the long run.
Daddy never used to carry mommy on vacation, and look at now how many times he has visited us since we married. Mommy did not enjoy that luxury. So there are a lot of things that women have. I don't know if phobia is the word, but he's adamant that whoever marries him have to accept that.
Yes, I don't know what will change him. The reality of the loneliness might change him, eh?
Well, yes.
You have to make some compromises.
Yeah.
If
he really thinks that or if he's quite content to live with his, not grief or his memories of Sylvia. And I mean, my brother-in-law was married for how many years? Maybe almost 50 years too. And Sylvia died, And
Not the Sylvia here, though.
no,
Oh.
funny, Sylvia died, not the Sylvia. And
Not
and Carrie lived 15 years after Sylvia
Alone.
alone.
He was married.
And I mean, I was happy he didn't get married
Oh.
because his home was run and kept in the manner that Sylvia left it. So when you went to visit, you just felt Sylvia was at work. Nothing changed in the home. The hospitality of the home, the warm welcome, you know, certain things might have been changed by the daughter, but a daughter changing something is different than another woman changing it.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and well, he had his moments of grief and so on. I think particularly before he died.
But you see, he liked people and he moved among people.
Oh yeah, he was
That's
a people's
he
person.
was a people's
and
person.
he rallied around his children and grandchildren.
Right.
But if you are kind of loner, you will be lonely.
Yes.
You know,
Definitely.
and that's why many times women don't marry again, because women are quite content to live with their children, do stuff with their children, do stuff with their grandchildren. So there's no loneliness, but yet there is still the love and appreciation of the dead husband. But when you marry again, it really kind of changes everything, eh?
Yes.
Because you're really, it's not fair for the new person, your husband or the wife, to have to live in the shadow. You can imagine me marrying again and the man had to live in your shadow.
You might quicker live in, she might have to live in your shadow.
Yeah, because it's a lot of things. There's a lot of things to consider.
Yeah, well,
And especially when somebody's young and they love, they don't think about the big picture. And they take a chance.
take a chance.
But when you're older and you knew what you had, and you think of other people now and the complexity of personalities, and you know Clara was a particular way and this person now is so different, it's hard. It is very
Do
hard.
you think this lonely heart fella was testing the women? Testing them to see what kind of metal they had?
Well, yes.
Wow.
He because he know this is what he was happy with.
Mm-hmm.
He know who he was, and he knew Clara made him happy, and she understood him all these years, whatever idiosyncrasies he may have. He know Clara understood that, and Clara was willing to compromise with his shortcomings and whatever, but the demands of a new person, you know.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure those photographs on the wall might have shown the visitors, right? The female visitors he was, perhaps dating. They would
Happy
have seen.
moments.
They would have seen a lot of happy moments. You think that could not have struck their hearts? That this man is a very affectionate man. He loves, but he has to override that one grief.
Yes.
That one grief process.
Because, he may treat his new wife the same as he
Yes.
treated Clara.
Yes.
But time.
Yes. 3 years seems to be a little too short, eh?
But some people move on.
Immediately, sometimes. Eh? Well, let me end this by telling you.
Do you remember?
Who?
We went to a funeral,
Go ahead.
and this man was so heartbroken about losing his wife and the kind of wife he had, and he said, God in heaven will have to come down and tell him, marry this woman. And I said, what, boy? I didn't know this man loved his wife so bad, but this is great. 3 months later, he married us.
Well,
So God came down real quick.
I don't know anything about that. But I'll tell you something about my old man. My old man, when my mother died, she died 7 years later. He would die, okay?
Yeah.
But pretty close to that time when he would die, oh no, it was soon after she died, I went up to
Yeah.
the old home.
Soon died. Yeah, she had
I went
soon
up to
died.
the old home, and there he was busy locking all the doors. And I said, "Hey, where you going, man?" He said, "I heard this lady's coming here to visit me today. I don't want to be here when she comes."
He afraid she going to stay on one time.
And you know, he died an unmarried man. Eh?
Yeah, I
Died
know
a
that.
widower, and that was it.
And he died grieving for mother.
Yeah, he died grieving.
I wonder if you're going to be like that.
I know, boy. I know. We're going to tackle that another day.
I wonder if you're going to be like father.
I can't say, girl.
Oh God, the nicest woman, a nice prettier lady than me, and laughing like me. She had to laugh like me. Eh?
That's the problem. She
You
can't
see?
laugh like you.
She had to laugh like me. Then if she could laugh like me, then she don't have to live in my shadow. She's her own person.
That's right.
Yeah, but if the lady's serious, you won't expect her to laugh like me.
Except that she might be laughing louder than you. Thank you.